So we're getting to the exciting end of the build for the new Landcare and Sustainable Living Centre. Right now I want to have a talk to Brent about the project itself, how it was initiated, the funding, and how we actually got to where we are now. So Brent, can you kind of take us back to 2012?
Sure can, Jason, thank you. And very exciting to see the finished products almost there.
Together,
But yeah, it's been a long history. And I know the Landcare community and the wider sustainable community is excited for what we're going to have at the end of this product. But in 2012, yes, a master plan was developed. And back then we didn't really have the full budget to deliver everything, but with a lot of our strategies and our plans, we look at the bigger picture, and so the full site was considered, which had the first stage, which you may recall, and all our Landcare friends will, I'm sure, have been out there, the nursery in the Kohler area. So that was built in 2018 through a first bucket of money. At the end of 2018, our sustainable engagement team managed to get a $200,000 grant through the Stronger Country Community Funds, which is the state government-based funding program. The budget at the time was really only just for the office buildings, but then when we started designing the project and looking at the grant objectives, we realised that, well, it's more than an office space. We wanted to provide a new community facility and a community hub. The execs saw the benefit in it, and we got the additional funding. So then in sort of 2020 we went into detailed design, went out, got an external architect, Thrive Architecture, who then designed the facility we're in now. Then following that, we went to construction tender, had Think engaged at the early 2021, and they started construction sort of just before mid-year in 2021. Obviously they had a lot of challenges through just material delays, staff, COVID, and being down in resources, so they were challenges. And even though we're standing here at the end of 2022, we're almost done.
Almost done, yeah, so close now.
Yeah, it's taken a while, and we really appreciate what your staff have gone through and the community. I know that you and your team and the wider Landcare and sustainable neighbourhood groups will appreciate what's delivered at the end. I've actually got a question back to you, Jason. I believe there's been a name change for the facility moving forward, so I'd be interested to find out how that came about, and how will the facility be used? How are you guys going to use this wonderful facility in the future?
Yeah, sure. So the name's interesting. So the original building, the Landcare Resource Office, was of course over at Blackwall's,
remember that one?
Burnt to the ground, so some really riveting imagery of that. Photos taken at the time, a clock, all molten, an Escher picture. And then the group moved out to the worm farm at Terralba for a period, while the mantle buildings were put on this site. So we've been on this site for over 10 years now, where we became a Landcare Resource Centre. But moving forward, the new facility is the Landcare and Sustainable Living Centre. So it takes that broader concept of environmental sustainability. One of the wonderful things is Council's recent adoption of having dual naming to recognise what we call history for a lot of their community facilities going forward. So we also now have an Aboriginal name, a second name, and that's umali barai-ku. And that means to do for the earth. So of course that beautifully encompasses that concept of what you're doing is around caring for the earth as your home, as your place, as its own valued entity that you need to really look after. So of course all of our Landcare community that were consulted on that name were really positive and excited by it, because it reflected what they do. Likewise, the Sustainable Neighbourhood Alliance were really positive about that name for exactly the same reason. And that's where we're going to move forward with the centre. So it should become that community hub to bring people together who want to look after the environment, who want to live more sustainably, and who want to mix with other groups that feel the same way. So we've got the new community centre, so it's got the capacity to have 60, 70 people in a theatre style, or 50 to 60 sitting around desks and workshops. We'll try to engage and hold programs, education programs or community development programs around that sustainable sphere. Likewise, the centre here is to be like a meeting place or a hub. So there's free Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi access, as a lot of our community facilities have. So people will be encouraged to come here and be able to engage with other council staff, certainly with the Landcare staff and sustainable engagement staff, and our volunteers around those aspects that really interest and excite them. So all of the programs that Landcare originally run will continue from this centre. A lot of the sustainable neighbourhood programs will start to move in here. The programs the Alliance runs, or their general meetings that they hold, and we'll also look to try and build and develop engagement and relationship with a lot of other community-based groups that have that same focus. So a lot of thought went in the design of this place in terms of that environmental control. So I'd love you to talk to some of those points too.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're looking around the facility, you'll notice there is high-level windows and louvers. So that's to allow some natural light and ventilation in. So you'll get the cross throw of ventilation to help obviously with cooling. And then there's insulation, special paneling on all the walls. So that's all about thermal comfort for the user, and to reduce the reliance on that mechanical ventilation, which is, obviously costs money and greenhouse gases. So.
Yeah, and there's that 3 levels of operation. So the passive cooling by opening the windows, and then there's the DC fan. So that's a low voltage system for moving that air around, and that's quite efficient. And then when things get terrible outside, then we can go to the air conditioning system, and it sits within that well insulated building.
Correct.
And also, I guess, the shading aspects and the design profile, the direction it faces, all of those were again at that design phase to minimise.
Yeah. And something that facility users may not notice is the 50 kilowatt solar panel system on the roof. So that's our environmental systems team was pushing that. They obviously have a program of solar panel installation across council facilities. What better facility to put one on here? So we've got a system on here, and my understanding is we will also have an EV vehicle charging station coming as part of the project.
A late entry into the game.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's made it in.
So Brent, it's a brand new building, but it's not all brand new. Tell us about the pavers.
Correct. Yeah, the pavers we're standing on, so they actually have come from Pearson Street Mall. So council last year did a project where we upgraded the mall at Charlestown, Pearson Street near the Charlestown Square. So these pavers have been stockpiled since then, and have basically pretty much cleaned them up and repurposed them for our flooring. So as part of that circular economy strategy that council has adopted last year and is pushing. So we're reused pavers that would have normally have gone to landfill or some other generally possibly recycled, but being used here. It's just another unique feature that we've been able to show that if you're building your own property at home and you're environmentally minded, look for products that can be reused.
Yeah, and actually the linkage there with the first stage with the nursery, the bricks around the cola were all reused. And that does present challenges for the builders, which needs to be acknowledged.
Yes.
But that opportunity to be able to give longer life to that building product that's already got a carbon investment. And there was also the real design element that sat behind that. So that use of the pavers was to bring the outside in. So as you walk through, there's a continuous flow of that flooring, because it was a way of acknowledging that the centre's existence is around that outside
environment and earth. Yeah, definitely true.
So Brendan, as project manager, you've seen this job through to completion, and before, of course, as part of that design phase. I'd love it if you could talk through some of the key green features, such as the passive airflow and the green wall.
Certainly. So there's really great elements that have been incorporated that tried to demonstrate here. We have an inverted truss ceiling, which is a little bit different to a normal ceiling, which would just be flat. This one is actually tapered back towards the walls. And what that does is, everyone knows that heat rises to the ceiling. So we've put louvers on the walls and deliberately got that inverted truss, which then funnels the air out to the walls and out through those louvers to help cool the place down.
Yeah. Also, it's a great visual feature, that inverted truss wall too.
Certainly looks wonderful, yeah.
So one thing we obviously have, if you have a look from space at this centre, is a whole load of roof now that we didn't have before. So what happens with the rain that hits that?
Yeah, so all of the water is obviously streamed into our downpipes, which are connected up to 3 large tanks so that we can collect and reuse all of that water within your fantastic facility. And then anything that, once those tanks have reached their capacity, that water then feeds down into a bioretention swale down the back.
And of course that captures a lot of the heavy elements out of it before it then is able to be flowing through into the lake in a much cleaner state than normal.
Yeah, it really helps to filter that out before it's entering our natural waterway.
Yeah.
The second feature that we've really got is being the green wall out the front. The whole purpose, or the way that the green wall works, is that it stops the sunlight being able to get direct contact onto the outside wall, which limits the heat transfer inside of the building. There's plans within council at a future point in time to be able to put a sensor underneath that green wall and in another location and really be able to compare just the temperature differences that are occurring there.
So Alex, we've talked a bit about the green wall before, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about this feature.
Yeah, we chose species that were hardy in full sun and also species that we would like to collect for, seed or cuttings from for our propagation purposes. Yep. So we've chosen a couple of beech species like Coria alba and Westringia fruticosa, and a few grasses which are always useful, and obviously they will be good for pollinators and other insects and animals. The wall is irrigated automatically with a timer, and fertiliser is injected into the irrigation, so it gets a little bit of feed each time it's irrigated.
And I think some of the species are almost experimental for this style of green wall, so the provider does have a list, but we were able to work with them for some different species. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a few different species that they hadn't used before, like Gonocarpus tuquioides. That also is a fairly tough species. It grows on the hind dunes. Yeah, we're hoping that'll work well.
So it'll be great to see how those turn out, because of course everything here is local provenance, isn't it? It's our area.
Yes, it's all local provenance.
Yeah. And the cassette design?
I think there's about 16 cells in each. Not every single one of those is planted, but they're removable, so if they need to be maintained or some new plants put in or pruned or any type of maintenance, they're just unscrewed from the wall and we can put some new ones in.
So I've got to ask you now, Jace, out of everything that's included in the building, what's your favourite element?
I think it's external design and the way it fits into the place that it's at, and that's always been part of the architect's vision as they've worked through this. So of course our internal architect with concept design, and then handing that over to an externally contracted architect, they've looked at how it fits in with the place, and you can hardly be looking out a window and not see trees and green. But then it's designed, its sloping roof, even with its size, and it's massive. When you get up close, you see its scale.
Certainly is.
It fits into the environment. The trees still dwarf it. It still looks like it's got its place there. And I guess that how the immense size of it represents a drawing card to the community in a place. And by having the green wall and the water recapture and the solar power and the other environmental design aspects, you can make a large building with that intent, that its purpose is to demonstrate sustainability and be a home for sustainability and fit within that environment. So it's just its presence.